Beyond the borders of this world, there exists a mysterious gift born in another realm. People believe it is a single blessing handed down by the gods themselves, granted only once in a lifetime. Through these gifts, humans gained powers they were never meant to have. At first glance, it sounds like a miracle, but not everyone is blessed equally. These gifts are divided into 4 levels: worthless or failed gifts, ordinary gifts that many people share, rare bloodline gifts passed down through certain families, and legendary gifts. A legendary gift is completely unique, with only one ever allowed to exist in the entire world. Because of this ranking system, those born without a gift are immediately labeled as useless. Worse still, they are shunned, looked down on, and their lives are decided by where they were born. Wanting to show their strength and authority, kings and nobles chase after powerful gifts, which leads to constant wars as powerful nations invade weaker ones. That's absurd. There's no way that could be true. My son Ars has no talent. Orpheus, the father of our main character, shouts in disbelief. However, the assessor calmly insists that Ars's gift is hearing, a power tied to the 5 senses. I know this must be hard to accept, the man adds, but the priestess of the Holy Church has never once mistaken a gift. Orpheus no longer hears another word. His heart sinks as fear fills him, knowing his son inherited neither his ability nor his wife's. Turning away, Orpheus leaves in silence, haunted by the thought that he married a woman of higher rank and sacrificed everything, all for the sake of Aeshel's. But an even darker worry weighs on his mind. If people outside the family discover that a useless child was born into his bloodline, the family's honor would be ruined, and his own status would crumble with it. How can I stop the secret from leaking out? If this fate was unavoidable, then Ars should never have been born. That thought sparks a cold answer in Orpheus's heart. His son simply should not exist. With that twisted resolve, he storms into Ars's room and finds his wife, Philia, gently smiling as she holds their baby. Before she can finish speaking, Orpheus rips Ars from her arms and declares that he will get rid of the child. "Why would you do something so horrible?" she screams, saying it makes no sense. Orpheus snaps back that Ars has a useless gift and that he has no need for an incompetent son. The moment she hears those words, all color drains from her face. Could he truly go that far over something like this? Sadly, in his unhinged state, he can. Orpheus is convinced that a talentless child will only curse his household. Desperate to protect her son, Philia tries to stop him, but the strain causes her to break into violent coughing. Why now of all times, she thinks as her body gives out and she falls to the floor. Seeing her condition, Orpheus scoffs and tells her she is too weak to interfere and should stay quiet. Yet even this cruel man has one weakness. When he feels her grab his leg and hears her beg him to stop, his steps freeze. Moved by her desperate pleas, Orpheus makes his decision. And so, 5 years pass. The helpless infant grows into a small boy, and now Ars sits alone, remembering how he survived only because his mother saved his life. Instead of ending his life, his father chose a different kind of cruelty and hid him away from the world, locking Ars inside a tall tower protected by powerful barriers. It's like a fairy tale prison. Something Rapunzel herself would understand. Ars's gift, known as hearing, sharpens his ears far beyond normal limits. However, it comes with a painful flaw. He cannot use magic at all and can only sense the sounds around him. Just then, the door slowly opens and his mother steps inside, gently asking if he's listening to noises again. She even teases him, wondering if he's using his power for mischief. Ars jumps up, happy to see her, but his joy quickly turns into guilt since there is nothing fun they can do inside the tower. Seeing his sad face, how could she ever be angry with him? After all, any child would be lonely when trapped in a place like this. So she smiles and asks if they should practice letters today, and his mood instantly brightens. Ars knows his mother is weak, since he only gets to see her a few times each month. Still, whenever she feels well enough, she always comes to visit him without fail. Even on days they cannot meet, Ars can tell she worries about him, and he knows this because of his hearing. Those moments with her are the only times he truly feels calm and safe. After studying, she asks if something is bothering him, but he shakes his head and says it's nothing. Instead, he asks about her health. "Are you worried about me?" she asks with a smile. "Do I look pale?" It's not exactly that. But Ars notices her heartbeat sounds different than usual. Then again, he wonders if he's mistaken, since her heartbeat is always so faint that it sometimes reminds him of a small animal. "A what?" she asks in surprise. Laughing softly, she tells him she's the same as ever, even if she isn't very healthy. Still, she can't hide how amazed she is that her son can notice things like that now. Relieved that her son is thinking about her, she smiles gently. Before leaving, she removes the cross necklace from her neck and places it in Ars's hands. "Give this to your father when you finally get a chance to speak with him," she says softly. "It should help the two of you make peace." She even says she added a wishing spell to it so they could get along better. And if he still refuses to listen, she won't forgive him. Hearing that makes Ars quietly wonder whether it's really a blessing or some kind of scary magic, and he can't tell which it is. Even so, his mother stays hopeful, saying that if he and his father reconcile, she dreams of them all going outside together to play, and just imagining that would make her very happy. Suddenly, she coughs into her hand and freezes when she sees blood on her palm. Shocked, she quickly says goodbye and apologizes for ending their time together so suddenly, explaining that she feels a bit tired and will return to her room. Ars doesn't think much of it and simply asks her to visit him again soon. She pats his head, telling him to take care of himself and stay healthy. Later, back in her room, she apologizes to Orpheus, now realizing her anus is far worse than she believed. With sadness in her voice, she admits she wanted to stay by Ars's side a little longer. "Why do you care so much about Ars?" Orpheus asks coldly. "Because he's my son," she replies. Orpheus argues back, calling Ars a defective child and saying Philia has been reckless ever since his birth. He tells her not to waste time on pointless things and to focus on herself instead, adding that she is still precious to him. Hearing that, she asks if he's jealous of their son. Then, calmly but firmly, she says that talent doesn't matter and asks him a painful question. "Did you only treasure me because I had talent?" Put on the spot. Orpheus grows defensive. But before he can answer, Philia tells him that if that isn't true, then she wants him to face Ars as well. Because Orpheus chose not to kill his son back then, Philia's life was spared, and for a time things became a little brighter for her. She believed that one day Orpheus's life would change too. "When I'm gone, please cherish that child," she once wished. Sadly, that hope never came true. Several months later, Orpheus suddenly visits the tower where Ars is kept, leaving the boy confused. He coldly explains that this visit is because of Philia's final wish. She wanted Ars to live freely, instead of bringing comfort. Those words only deepen Ars's confusion, and that is when Orpheus finally snaps. Angered that his son cannot understand, he shouts the truth. Philia is dead. She lost her life to her illness. Aphes breezes as the words sink in. "Mother is dead." Orpheus explodes into a harsh rant, telling Ars that his own thoughts were never the same as Philia's, and that he has no intention of letting the boy go free. From now on, he says he won't hold back anymore. Eris must begin magical development at once. Still, claiming it is for Philia's sake, Orpheus gives him a short grace period and tells him to be ready next time. That next time comes immediately. Ars is shown chained to the wall while his father carries out cruel acts on his small body. "It must hurt," Orpheus says coldly. "Change your gift quickly." As if that makes it better, he promises to heal Ars afterward with magic. This twisted act is called magical development, a forbidden method that uses pain to force change. In truth, it is nothing but torture. People may break under it, but gifts never change. After losing his wife, Orpheus becomes consumed by this obsession, driven only by his wounded pride. Alone in his cell, Ars quietly apologizes to his mother, blaming himself for never being able to get along with his father. But there is something important that Orpheus does not know yet. Everyone knows Ars was born with the gift of hearing. At first, it only made his ears sharper than normal, but after his mother passed away, something inside him changed. His hearing evolved, allowing him to recreate the knowledge he learned just by listening. On top of that, he could now use magic. From that moment on, Ars decided to collect knowledge from all over the world. The amount of information out there was endless, and it lit a fire in his heart, pushing him to keep listening non-stop. Magic in particular fascinated him. Even though his hearing gift places limits on how he can use magic, he can still cast most spells simply by understanding them. Ars doesn't even realize how deep his magic power truly is, a strength he inherited from his mother, who was once a gifted mage. Lying on his back, Ars opens his eyes and stares at the ceiling. 10 long years have passed since he was sealed inside the tower. Oddly enough, he doesn't find it so bad. The tower served its purpose and the harsh training was needed. More than that, the silence here was perfect. The quiet allowed him to listen to distant sounds from across the world without interruption. If there had been noise, his progress would have slowed greatly. Still, Ars feels no attachment to this place anymore, especially now that his mother is gone. His biggest weakness is his lack of real-world experience. If he truly wanted to, he could defeat his father. But the world beyond the tower is vast, and he doesn't know what kind of powerful people exist out there. The only way to understand his true strength is to test it someday. For now, though, Ars is thinking about something much simpler. Dinner. His father's voice echoes as a piece of bread is tossed onto the floor at his feet. Ars doesn't even bother to move. Instead, he calmly asks if that dry piece of bread is all he's getting. His father scoffs and snaps back, asking if Ars really thinks he has the right to complain. "You're trash," he says, "worse than someone who lives off others." A grown man yelling at a child, nothing new here. Ignoring the insults, Ars asks something else instead. "Are you done with magical development now?" After all, he survived 16 years of that cruel training. Orpheus has clearly had enough. From his point of view, Ars's gift of hearing never showed any change at all, so continuing would be a waste of time. "So I'm useless now," Ars says quietly. He already knows the answer, but hearing it out loud still matters. His father answers with the same cold tone, adding that the next family heir has already been chosen. Ars's younger brother has inherited the powerful bloodline gift. How wonderful. And what about me, Ars asks. Orpheus replies that he'll give him just enough food to stay alive, and when the time comes, he'll let him go. That was your mother's wish, he adds. Mother, Philia, Ars repeats. If that's the case, then this timing is perfect. In the next moment, Ars snaps the shackle on his arm as if it were nothing, breaking the chains with ease. Orpheus can only stare in shock. Today we part ways, Ars says as he places his hand on the wall. I shall take my leave. A glowing magic circle spreads across the stone, followed by a loud blast as Ars breaks through the tower. Orpheus trembles, frozen in fear. Impossible, that was magic. And he's right. This is the very power Orpheus once called useless Ars's hearing magic. Even Ars didn't expect to be this strong. Then again, the barrier his father placed on the tower must have already weakened. Orpheus stands frozen, his mind unable to keep up with what just happened. He had even strengthened the barrier only yesterday, yet Ars's broke through it with ease. Meanwhile, Ars is already thinking ahead, guessing that there must have been a small crack somewhere in the magic seal. With nothing left to learn inside the tower, his goal now lies far beyond it. He wants to face beings stronger than demon lords, those known as the very peak of magic. Ars turns back one last time and looks at his father. I will reach the pinnacle of magic, he says quietly. I want to learn magic, even if I don't fully understand it yet. With those words, he jumps down without hesitation. Orpheus rushes to the edge and looks below, stunned. What did he just say again? Find the pinnacle of magic. Elsewhere, the sound of frantic footsteps echoes through the area. A beautiful young girl is desperately running from those chasing her, her hands tightly bound. As she runs, she looks at the vines ahead and thinks that if only she could remove them, she might escape. Suddenly, she trips and crashes to the ground. Looking down, she sees vines wrapped tightly around her legs, glowing with magic. She's been caught. Well, if it isn't Princess Yulia. A man's voice calls out. More men appear beside him, 5 in total. One of them stiffens in shock after realizing who they cornered, while the hooded man steps forward with a polite smile, asking if the princess is simply out for a walk. Yulia plays along, calmly saying she only wanted some fresh air after being locked up for so long. Something about her words irritates him, and his smile fades at once. We apologize for our disrespect, but this has gone far enough, he says coldly. Because of you, we've lost many mages. He orders her to stop resisting and return quietly, reminding her that escorting her to the imperial capital is a direct command from His Majesty the Emperor. He warns her that if she keeps acting on her own, it will be hard to treat her politely anymore. She thinks. Is this what they call polite? This time, Yulia fires back with her own warning, saying that if she gets hurt, they will pay for it. The man clicks his tongue and snaps that injuries can always be fixed with magic. He coldly adds that they could even disgrace her if they wanted. Hearing that makes Yulia finally understand how dangerous her situation really is. Trying to stay calm, she says that she will go with them willingly. I can walk by myself, she tells them, and asks if they can remove the vines from her legs. After a moment, the man agrees and orders his subordinates to cancel the spell. His tone softens again, and he bows slightly, saying he should have introduced himself earlier. I am Rek, the leader of this squad. But the moment he finishes speaking, a knee slams into his face. Captain Rek, his men shout in shock. Yulia calmly throws his own words back at him. Injuries can be handled with magic, right? Blood pours from Rek's nose as rage twists his face. Enraged, he commands his men to restrain her. Once again, Yulia is tied up, but this time, Rek wants her to suffer. Cut off her limbs and take her with us, he snarls. We can heal her once we reach the capital. One of the men nervously asks what they will report to Lord Albert. Rek scoffs, saying they won't reach the capital anytime soon anyway. Besides, Lord Albert plans to visit nobles along the way, so as long as she stays alive, there's no issue. He raises his sword and swings, and Yulia braces herself for pain that never comes. Instead, Rek's blade shatters mid-swing. From behind them, a calm voice speaks. Your swords break pretty easily, don't they? Of course, it's Ars. Ars politely says sorry for stepping in, but explains that he has something he needs to ask first. Rek snaps his head around in anger, shouting to know who dared interrupt them. At the same time, Yulia's face brightens with hope. Did this person just save me, she wonders? Acting calm as ever, Ars casually tells them his name, which only makes Rek even angrier. Was that your magic just now? Rek demands. You don't even know who we are, do you? Ars replies that he does. These men are magic knights from the Earth Empire. Looking at the scene, he tilts his head and asks if magic knights are really just fools who gang up on a single woman like bullies on horseback. That comment nearly makes Rek explode with rage. He swings his weapon at Ars without thinking, but Ars easily dodges the attack. Still, this is the perfect chance. Ars had heard rumors that the Earth Empire's magic knights were full of talented fighters. There's a technique he's been wanting to test, though this will be his first time using it on a person. As Rek charges again, Ars calmly raises his hand. At that close distance, Rek has no way to escape. A blast of wind slams into him, sending his body flying through the air and crashing into a tree far away. Yulia's eyes go wide. Was that chantless magic? Ars, however, is worried about something else. Is he not dead? He honestly thought Rek would block the attack, since it was his weakest spell. The other magic knights are just as shaken as Yulia. They also realize what they just witnessed magic cast without chanting. One of the knights quickly tries to calm the others, pointing out that Ars used low-level magic based on his movements and words. His magic type must be wind, or maybe storm, he says. We still have more people. If we stay careful, we can still win. That's what they all say. Seeing the knights getting ready to rush him together, Ars decides to handle them all at once with wide-range magic. He stretches out his hand and a glowing magic circle forms in the air. Shadow impact, he says calmly. The moment it activates, Yulia can feel that this spell is different. Is this another element? But wait, isn't a person only supposed to have one gift? The knights suddenly freeze in place. I can't move, one of them gasps. Even worse, blood begins to drip from their eyes, noses, and mouths. Why isn't our magic working? Unable to stay standing, the knight collapses to the ground, coughing as fear spreads through the group. This spell fills its targets with terror and confusion. Ars explains that it messes with the mind, shaking the ground through sound that enters the ears and strikes the brain. He honestly believed they would block it with defensive magic, since he thought it was easy to counter. But by the time he finishes explaining, no one is left who can hear him. Disappointed, Ars frowns. If his enemies fall this easily, how is he supposed to test his own strength? Shaking off the thought, he turns to Yulia and tells her they should remove her restraints. She explains that the bindings are a special magic tool. That's not a problem, Ars says simply. He knows how to break those. Sound of death, he whispers. A small magic circle appears around the chains, and in an instant, they shatter, freeing Yulia's wrists. She stares in shock. He can even destroy magic restraints without trouble. The princess has never heard of anyone with more than one gift. Sorry to interrupt your thoughts, Ars says, but we should get out of here first. Yulia quickly follows him, and before long, the two walk side by side. Yulia thanks him for saving her, but worry quickly fills her voice. She explains that their enemies were magic knights from the Earth Empire and crossing them could bring danger to his friends or family. Ars tells her not to worry, saying it doesn't really bother him, so it shouldn't trouble her either. That answer only leaves Yulia more confused. What does he mean by that? Ars then shares his story, calling it a common and sad tale. A child born with a useless gift in a noble family hidden away only because his mother protected him. After his mother passed away, his father forced him through painful magical development that never worked. Like many men who lose their wives, his father remarried, and the new wife gave birth to a talented child, making Ars no longer necessary. With that, Ars casually finishes explaining how he left that place behind. He talks about his painful past as if it were nothing, which surprises him when Yulia suddenly steps in front of him. If that's true, then you should take better care of yourself, she says firmly. But that isn't the only reason she's upset. From what she knows, magical development is forbidden, and what was done to Ars can never be forgiven. Seeing how angry she is, especially after everything she herself just went through, Ars finds it strange. She doesn't need to worry about anyone else right now, and yet she's worried about him. She's kind, Ars thinks. It's been a long time since anyone cared about him like this, the last being his late mother. I'm glad you're angry for my sake, he says with a gentle smile, but you don't need to worry about me. Then he adds that he hasn't properly introduced himself. Like I said before, my name is Ars. I'm Yulia, the girl replies. Yulia de Villet. Hearing that name, Ars pauses, remembering a country with the same name that was once destroyed by the Earth Empire. So she carries the de Villet name and is being hunted by the Empire. On top of that, the crest on her clothes clearly marks her as royalty. With that in mind, Ars asks if he should call her a princess. Yulia hesitates, saying she isn't even sure she still deserves that title. Changing the subject, Ars says he's impressed she managed to escape despite being captured and tied up. Yulia hugs herself and says it was only luck, adding that she doesn't want to remember those terrifying moments. Hearing that, Ars suggests they put as much distance as possible between themselves and this place. Then Yulia suddenly wonders where Ars is planning to go. He tells her he was heading to the City of Magic. It's a massive city ruled by the Magic Association, a place with its own rules that refuses control from any nation. Known as the center of the world, it gathers powerful gifts and deep magical knowledge. There's someone he wants to meet there, someone who once said he hoped to visit that city someday. When Yulia hears this, she asks if he would mind her joining him, which catches Ars off guard. She explains that she was also planning to go to the City of Magic, As she reminds him, the Earth Empire is chasing her, and traveling together could bring him trouble. Even AS knows she won't be able to escape the Empire so easily, but resisting them isn't simple either. After thinking it over, he decides it should be fine to head there together, since the City of Magic is independent. Ars tells her they should travel as a pair. Still, Yulia asks one more time if he's really okay with that, saying she's heard that on long journeys, companions appear, and that two people are stronger than one. Ars tells her that he's looking forward to traveling together, and Yulia feels deeply relieved. She thanks him again, saying she might even be able to help guide their trip since she knows a few people along the way. Then shall we set off, she asks. It should take about 1 day to reach the City of Magic, marking the start of their journey side by side. As they walk, Yulia brings up something that's been on her mind. Earlier, you used several kinds of magic, she says carefully. If you don't mind me asking, what is your gift? Aris frowns and stays silent, which makes her quickly worry that she crossed a line. Was that something I shouldn't have asked, she says nervously. No, that's not it, Aris replies, stumbling over his words. He pauses, sighs, and then gives in. I guess I should tell you. My gift is hearing. Yulia freezes in shock. Hearing. She honestly admits it's the first time she's ever heard of such a gift and doesn't know how to react. Even so, one thing is certain. Ars was clearly using magic. Ars explains that his gift was once just sharp hearing, but at some point he discovered he could use magic through it. I don't really understand it myself, he admits, other than how gift attributes work. At least Yulia doesn't look down on him for not knowing everything about his own power. In this world, being good at hearing is usually seen as useless, or so Ars believes. Yulia shakes her head, saying she thinks it's an amazing gift, something others would envy. Ars tries to play it down, saying all he can really do is overhear things, which isn't something to brag about. Even so, Yulia reminds him, that ability is what saved me. I think it's a gift you should be proud of, she says warmly. Her words make Ars smile. But enough about me, he says, now curious. What about your gift, princess? With a gentle smile, Yulia tells him that her power belongs to a magic system called White Light. This time, Ars is the one left speechless. Doesn't it suit me? She asks playfully. Ars answers honestly, saying it's the perfect gift for a princess, and that praise makes her beam with joy. Truth be told, Ars isn't completely unfamiliar with her power. He has heard stories about the light gift before. It's said to be an incredibly rare ability, a legendary power that exists only once in the entire world. That makes this meeting even more shocking, since he never expected to meet someone with such a gift out here. Your magic is fascinating, Ars says sincerely, then asks if she could show it to him sometime. I can show you right now, she replies, forming a soft, glowing orb of light in her palm. Ars scratches his head, realizing that using such magic is like sending a signal for enemies to find her. Still, if that happens, won't you come save me again, she teases. Ars admits that it would be troublesome, which makes Yulia laugh. They continue walking until the sky begins to darken, and Ars suggests they set up camp before night falls. After we rest, we'll head for the border, he says. Later, the sound of a blade striking wood echoes through the camp. Oops, Yulia cries out. Ars quickly catches the knife, his face suddenly serious. I'll handle it, he says. Yulia immediately offers to help, but Ars tells her she doesn't need to worry. Still, aren't they supposed to help each other? Despite how dramatic it sounds, the task is nothing more than cutting vegetables. Yulia feels bad watching Ars do everything alone and insists on helping. Before handing her the knife, Ares asks if she knows how to cook. I'm good at making sweets, so please leave it to me, she answers happily. Well, if she says so, Ars thinks, then she might as well give it a try. Since Yulia is in charge of cooking, Ars says he'll take care of the fire. At least that part should be simple, or so he thinks. Ars, I don't think you can start a fire with a fork and knife, Yulia says gently. Ars tries to act calm, even though he's clearly embarrassed. Luckily, Yulia doesn't tease him. Instead, she hands him a pair of firestones, making him realize that what he was holding really was just eating tools. She asks if he's never used cutlery before, and Ars explains that the food he was given long ago could always be eaten by hand. Yulia smiles and says he should learn how to use them someday, though Ars admits he doesn't even know where to start. Then let's light the fire together, she suggests. She steps close behind him and softly guides his hands, showing him how to strike the stones. Before long, a warm flame sparks to life. Sitting across from each other, Yulia tells him he can ask her anything. Ars watches the fire closely, impressed, and suddenly realizes that she's clearly used to this kind of work. I struggled at first too, she says, but one of my maids was very good at these things and taught me. Ars blinks in surprise. Who would have thought a princess could handle chores like this? Then again, maybe Yulia also went through her own kind of training. Still, it wasn't harsh, since her maid was kind and patient, just like her. Soon, Yulia starts preparing the meal, and Ars can't help but look forward to tasting it. Watching her work, he notices how smooth and confident her movements are. making dinner seem very promising. At the same time, Yulia remembers how Ars touched her restraints earlier even though they were enchanted. That was surprising, she says. Oh, I dispelled the magic on those too, Ars replies casually. For some reason, the restraints had already become weak and easy to snap, Ars explains. Was that not because of you, he asks. Yulia admits that she had tried many times to break them herself. Hearing that, Ars realizes her efforts likely weakened the magic, which is why the trap didn't activate when he finally destroyed it. Everything worked out in the end, but Yulia sighs and says she wishes he had told her sooner since it gave her quite a scare. Ars smiles apologetically and promises to explain things next time though. He adds that it would be even better if she didn't get captured again at all. Yulia laughs softly and promises to try her best to avoid that. Just then, she announces that the food is ready. What do you think, she asks. Ars looks down and finds himself staring at the least appetizing meal he has ever seen, if it can even be called food. I thought you said you could cook, is the first thing that slips out of his mouth. To be fair, Yulia explains that it was always her maid who did the cooking. She had only watched many times and thought she could copy it herself. Very bold of her, honestly. Ars is kind enough to call it creative instead of terrible, though he wonders what exactly happened to the ingredients. They now look less like food and more like a battlefield. No, a funeral for vegetables. Yulia lowers her head in embarrassment and apologizes over and over. Ars takes a bite and calmly says it's not bad. It actually tastes good, he adds, telling her to eat before it gets cold. Yulia stares at him and asks if he's serious. He nods and repeats that it tastes fine, at least to him. Holding back tears, she wipes her eyes and takes a bite herself. And that's all the proof she needs. It's completely inedible. Ars keeps eating the meal like nothing is wrong at all. Maybe all that harsh magic training raised his tolerance for terrible things. Seeing him continue without complaint, Yulia feels she has no choice but to keep eating too. Even though she's shaking from how awful it tastes, she quickly changes the subject and asks about the city of magic. What does Ars plan to do once they arrive? Before answering, he checks if she's feeling okay, then says he plans to relax for a while and take things slow. That reminds him of something she mentioned earlier. Didn't she say she could guide him because she knew someone there? He asks if that person is also a deatiled. Yulia smiles and explains that the person she meant is actually her sister. She proudly says her sister formed a guild in the City of Magic, and that Yulia will stay under her care for some time. Ars thinks to himself, the sister of someone with a light gift, huh? Does that mean her sister also holds a legendary power? Yulia shakes her head and says her younger sister Karen's gift is Flame. Flame. Ars knows that's a powerful bloodline gift, an advanced form of fire magic. Together, Yulia and Karen would be incredibly valuable, and Ars can't imagine the Earth Empire ever letting that go easily. Yulia adds that she and Karen have only communicated through letters, so she's really excited to finally see her in person. Then, I'll try not to interrupt your reunion, Ars jokes. Yulia laughs and tells him not to worry. Meeting her sister is important, but she also wants to introduce Ars to her. Hearing that, Ars finds himself looking forward to meeting the princess's little sister as well. And despite how awful Yulia's cooking turned out, the two of them somehow managed to finish every last bite. With their meal finished, Ars suggests they keep moving and rest after crossing the border. Yulia agrees, reminding him that they still need to stay alert since they're in enemy land. As Ars walks behind her, something finally catches his eye for the first time. Yulia is carrying a sword. He speaks up, saying he's been wondering for a while if she's actually strong. Instead of answering right away, Yulia asks what made him think that. Then Ars realizes it. The sword at her side looks like it came from one of the men he defeated earlier. Now that her restraints are gone, she can use her gift again, but carrying a sword also means she knows how to fight with it. Yulia smiles and confirms his guess. Even if I don't look it, I'm quite skilled with a blade, she says proudly. She explains that the Earth Empire only managed to capture her because they took her sword and sealed her power. Those are some bold words, Ars thinks, and her confidence only makes him more curious to see her sword skills for himself. He looks at her with clear interest, and Yulia feels a bit nervous, hoping she won't let him down. Ars simply replies that he's already excited to see it. They continue walking for a while, with Ars quietly keeping an eye on her. She doesn't seem tired at all, but he still doesn't want to push her too hard. Deciding it's a good stopping point, he suggests they camp here for the night. Yulia agrees, though she notices how thoughtful he's being. You don't have to slow down because of me, she says. I may not look strong, but I've kept up with my training. Ars answers calmly, pointing out that they've already made plenty of progress for one day. Monsters are known to become far more active after dark. No sooner does Ars say this than he senses several creatures closing in. He suddenly stops, and Yulia notices at once. What's wrong, Ars? She asks. Ars already knows something dangerous is coming. The only question is how to deal with it. As the first beast rushes forward, Yulia strikes first. With a single clean swing, she cuts off the head of a wolf-like monster. She quickly turns to check on Ars. Are you okay? The creature she just defeated is actually a hellhound, and now two more stand in front of them. Hellhounds are savage beasts, their fur and bodies burning with heat. They fiercely guard their territory and show no mercy to intruders. From the looks of it, Ers and Yulia have stepped right into their land, and the monsters have no intention of letting them leave. Looks like we have no choice but to. Ars begins, but Yulia moves again before he can finish. She slices down another hellhound, clean and swift. Two left, she says calmly. The last two leap at her together, but she cuts them down just as easily, ending the fight in moments. This is exactly what Ars wanted to witness. He left his tower to see strength like this. More hellhounds rush in, giving Ars his chance to act. I can't fall behind either, he mutters, placing his hand on the ground. This time he combines two elements, wind and force, into a single spell, Wegblasen. A powerful blast erupts, blowing away several hellhounds at once. Yulia stares in shock. Did he just cast a multi-element spell without chanting? Using more than one element is rare enough, but doing it without a single word as if it were normal leaves her completely stunned. This guy is incredible. Guess that's all of them, Ars says as he stands back up. Yulia walks over, clearly amazed that he wiped out so many monsters with a single move. Looks like you didn't need my help after all, she jokes. Ars isn't so sure about that. You really can't judge someone by how they look. In truth, he's deeply impressed by how Yulia fought earlier, especially since she didn't even use her gift. Yulia waves off his praise, saying she still can't compare to him. But that sword skill alone makes you strong, Ars says honestly. You showed me something amazing. Hearing that, Yulia finally slides her sword back into its sheath, relieved that she met his expectations. A second later, she realizes she may have gotten a little too excited. Putting the battle aside, Ars suggests they rest here for the night, even though the spot isn't very scenic. The warmth from the fallen hellhound's fur should last a while and help keep the cold away. He hands Yulia a blanket, telling her to use it since mornings can be freezing. Yulia thanks him, but then asks what he plans to use. Ars replies that he'll be fine with the cold, saying he's used to it by now. That answer makes Yulia pause. Why is he always putting her first? After thinking for a moment, she sits down right beside him and suggests they share the blanket to stay warm together. Ars hesitates and asks if she's really okay with that. She smiles and says it would be a problem if he caught a cold instead. With that, Ars doesn't argue and quietly accepts her offer. As they sit close together for warmth, Yulia softly asks if Ars is searching for someone in the City of Magic. She remembers him mentioning earlier that there was a person he wanted to meet. Ars answers honestly that he's looking for someone named Mimir. Yulia recognizes the name at once. From what she's heard, Mimir is said to stand at the very top of magic, the strongest mage in the world. Ars explains that he wants to face Mimir and win, not for glory, but to prove that he truly exists and is alive in his world. Hearing that, Yulia offers to help him, but Ars gently refuses her offer. Then she smiles and tells him he can just call her Yulia. After all, they become friends during this journey, so there's no need for formal titles. If he calls her by her first name, she says she'll do the same for him. Ars agrees without hesitation and encourages her to do so. Then Ars, Yulia says, asking what he was about to say earlier. He replies that he simply wants her to focus on the things she needs to do for herself. Suddenly, she clings to his arm from behind, saying that because he saved her, she wants to help him even if he turns her down. Feeling her hold tighten, Ars asks if she's cold. Yulia panics and quickly apologizes, saying that's not the real reason she moved closer. Ars tells her there's no need to apologize, guessing she must be exhausted after running so much today. He gently suggests she get some rest to recover her strength. She apologizes again, but deep down, there's more to her behavior. Ever since the Earth Empire captured her, Yulia has struggled to trust men. That fear didn't spare Ars either, which is why she kept testing his kindness again and again. And every time she tested him, Ars only responded with honest kindness. Realizing this, Yulia feels guilty for doubting someone so pure. Ars, you're truly a kind person, she says softly. You saved me again and again, and I don't even know how to repay you. It hurts her that she has nothing to offer in return right now. So instead, Yulia makes a promise. No matter what trials await him, she will stand by his side. To her relief, Ars feels the same way and tells her he wants to support her as well, no matter what happens. But does he really mean it? Of course he says with a gentle smile. We're friends now, right? You can count on me anytime. Hearing those words fills Yulia with warmth. Almost at once, her head gently falls onto Ars's shoulder. Huh, she fell asleep. She must be completely worn out. Even so, Ars finds her promise to stay with him a little surprising. Deep down, his reason for seeking Mimir is different from what he told her. His true goal is to prove to the world that the weak can rise above the strongest. He wants to open a new path, one where people who are mocked, trapped, and denied freedom can live without fear. Ars, once called useless, plans to defeat Mimir, the peak of magic, and become a light of hope for everyone. Meanwhile, far away in Meganburg, the stronghold of the Earth Empire, another scheme is quietly unfolding. "I never thought an elf would visit a place like this," Orpheus says coldly. The elf bows slightly and apologizes for arriving without notice, explaining that there is something important he must discuss. This elf is none other than one of the 10 great saints of the Holy Church, Balg von Arkenfeld. As you already know, Vold begins. The Earth Empire destroyed the kingdom of Volut in order to seize the gift of light. To the Holy Church, gifts of the white attribute are sacred. Princess Yulia, who was born with the rare light gift, is extremely important to us. Though the Earth Empire and the Holy Church are allies, that does not mean we can simply ignore what happened. Orpheus carefully avoids direct conflict, saying that he has been helping with the search for the princess. However, as only a frontier marquis, he claims he has no real authority in such matters and doubts he can be of much use. This answer clearly frustrates Volk, but as a representative of the Holy Church, he cannot step back now. If you manage to capture the princess, will you hand her over to the church instead of the empire? Volg asks calmly. Orpheus grits his teeth, demanding to know if Volg is asking him to betray his own nation. Suddenly, Volg changes the topic. "By the way, about your son. Rsed. I recall that his gift hearing is quite rare as well." The mention of Ars makes Orpheus visibly twitch. "Where did you even hear about that?" he snaps. Volg only gives a faint smile. After all, as one of the 10 great saints, how could he not know? Vold calmly asks Orpheus if he remembers which faction confirmed the gift of his heir. His words carry a hidden meaning. "You speak as if blaming the Earth Empire," Volg says quietly. "But were you not involved in similar actions yourself?" That accusation makes Orpheus slam his hand on the table and rise from his seat, finally losing his temper. The elf, however, remains seated and composed. He assures Orpheus that this discussion will stay private. No one else needs to know. "What exactly are you after?" Orpheus demands. Volg answers without hesitation. "The Holy Church has received reports that someone believed to be Ars may have helped Princess Yulia escape. If that is true, it must be reported directly to His Majesty the Emperor, and pretending not to know anything will not save you. If this matter comes to light, the secrets of the Meganburg family could be exposed and everything you've built may collapse." Now Orpheus truly feels cornered. If he sides with Volg, it would mean betraying the Empire. But if the rumor about Ars is real, then he is already standing on dangerous ground. No matter which path he chooses, the future of the Orpheus family hangs in the balance. Worse still, Volg is not just any elf. He is a holy knight and one of the 10 great saints. Even if Orpheus fought with all his strength, he knows he could never defeat him. Volg rises at last and places a firm hand on Orpheus's shoulder. There is a quiet threat in his voice. "If you cooperate with the Holy Church, I will personally explain everything to the Emperor. Your family will remain protected." So what is your answer? Hearing that only angers Orpheus further, especially because Vold knows he has no real choice. After a long silence, Orpheus finally grits his teeth. "Very well. We will expand the search and work together with the Holy Church." A faint smile appears on Volg's face. "I appreciate your cooperation. This makes things far simpler. Oh, and one more thing," Volg adds before leaving. There is another matter he wishes to discuss. Something about Ars and his hearing ability. Orpheus quickly dismisses it, calling it a worthless power. "What about it?" he still asks with irritation. Instead of answering right away, Volg asks if Orpheus has heard of a certain mysterious person who has been stirring unrest across many nations. According to rumors, this individual has been secretly obtaining the world's most guarded magical secrets and doing so with frightening ease. "You're suggesting that person could be Ars," Orpheus says sharply. Volg replies that he cannot confirm anything yet. However, every country is on edge, desperately trying to uncover who this shadowy figure is. Even the Holy Church has taken a strong interest. Orpheus scoffs, saying they might as well be chasing the wind, hunting for someone who may not even exist. That could be true, Volg admits, but they cannot simply ignore the possibility. The unknown figure sought by rulers across the world has been given a name, the pinnacle of magic. Mimir. Far away from that tense meeting, Yulia slowly wakes from her sleep and realizes she's sitting alone. She quickly apologizes to Ars for dozing off, but he brushes it aside calmly. She looked completely worn out, after all. With both of them now awake, Ars suggests they continue their journey since their destination is close. Soon they both lift their eyes toward a massive structure rising high into the sky. There it is. The Tower of Babel, Aris says. He asks if this is her first time seeing it too. Yulia nods, explaining that she was never allowed to leave her homeland before. Together, they gaze up at the towering monument. The Tower of Babel stands as the symbol of the city of magic, stretching so high it seems to pierce the heavens. Some even believe the tower reaches all the way to the gods themselves. Every mage who dreams of reaching a higher level of power eventually comes to this place. Ars looks at the towering city with shining eyes. I can't wait to see it up close, he says. Let's go. He steps forward, leading the way. As they approach the massive gates, they both tilt their heads, wondering how they are supposed to enter. Yulia looks around and says there should be guards nearby. If they simply explain their situation, she believes they'll be allowed inside. Big sister, thank goodness you're safe. A cheerful voice calls out as a girl with a ponytail rushes forward and throws her arms around Yulia. Karen. Yulia's eyes widen in surprise. What are you doing here? Karen explains that when she heard the kingdom of Velut had fallen, she guessed Yulia would head straight to the city of magic. After their tight embrace, Karen finally notices someone standing nearby. Big sis, who is that man? She asks cautiously, pointing at Eos, who watches them quietly with a calm expression. In an instant, Karen steps in front of Yulia, shielding her protectively. She studies Ars carefully, admitting that he doesn't look like a soldier from Velut, but she remains wary. Ars calmly introduces himself without any fuss. Yulia gently pulls her sister back and tells her not to be rude. He's the one who saved me while I was being chased by the Earth Empire, she explains. Oh, is that so? Karen replies, her attitude changing immediately. She bows slightly and apologizes before introducing herself as Karen, Yulia's younger sister and the former second princess of Velut. Just as Yulia had mentioned, Karen explains that she is now part of the Magic Association and runs her own guild in the city. After a short pause, Ars asks how someone who was once the second princess of Velut ended up joining the Magic Association in the first place. You probably know that the Earth Empire and Velut were never on good terms, Karen begins. Because Velut was weaker in strength, their father, the king, always felt a deep sense of danger. To protect the kingdom and keep the balance of power, he decided to seek help from the Magic Association. His plan was to use their knowledge to make Velut stronger. When Karen heard about this, she believed it was her chance to support her big sister and everyone back home. That is why she chose to join the Magic Association herself. Yulia adds that when their father learned Karen planned to join, he was heartbroken. Ars understands why. The Magic Association usually forbids political ties, so it's not a simple matter. Can a princess even join? He asks. Karen explains that in order to enter, she had to give up her right to the throne. It was the only way to show she was serious. Even so, she lowers her head and says she still didn't make it in time. She couldn't save their kingdom. No, that's not true, Yulia says firmly, pulling her into a hug. You're still helping me even now. Those words bring tears to Karen's eyes. But she quickly wipes them away and changes the topic. Enough about that. It's time for your baptism. Baptism, Ars repeats in confusion. Karen explains that it's a simple ritual for anyone entering the city of magic. She begins a chant. O nameless mage, reveal the knowledge of the world and build your own kingdom. In time, even the gods shall answer you. With those words, she welcomes them to the city, said to reach the heavens. As they step inside, Ars looks around in awe. The city feels enormous, alive with energy and magic. It is far grander and more lively than the place he once called home. Then again, he never truly had the chance to see his hometown properly. Karen smiles and says she understands how Ars feels. The first time she saw this city, she was just as shocked. Yulia, however, is more curious about where they're heading next. Karen blinks and says, Oh, didn't I tell you? We're going to my guild's headquarters. A short walk later, they stop in front of the building. Yulia takes one look and realizes it's a tavern. A tavern? She wonders aloud. Karen explains that running a guild costs a lot of money, so she also manages this place as a side business. Yulia tilts her head and asks if Karen can even drink alcohol. Karen sighs and says she doesn't need to drink to run a tavern. She only needs to manage it properly. Yulia had imagined something far more questionable, thinking taverns required more than just serving drinks and food. Hearing that, Karen looks worried. Big sis, this isn't that kind of place, she quickly says. We only serve meals and beverages here. Of course, a few foolish customers sometimes get the wrong idea, Ars glances up at the wooden sign and reads the name, Sisters of the Lamplight. Well, they're certainly not hiding that the owners are siblings. Karen pushes the door open and welcomes them inside. The moment they enter, a loud crash echoes through the room as a plate shatters on the floor. A man has grabbed one of the waitresses and is getting far too bold. That turns out to be a terrible decision. In the next instant, a knife slices through the air and flies past his face, missing him by only a hair. "Sir, we do not allow that kind of behavior here," a calm voice warns. The man quickly lets go of the waitress's wrist and stammers an apology to Elsa, claiming he was only joking. Elsa's expression doesn't change. She tells him it would be best for him to leave for the day. If he refuses, she warns quietly. She may not be so merciful next time. The man rushes out the door in panic just as Karen, Yulia, and Ars step inside the tavern. The shaken waitress thanks Elsa over and over, while Elsa calmly welcomes Lady Karen back. When she sees Yulia standing there unharmed, she bows her head with clear relief. Yulia smiles and tells her that she hasn't changed at all. Only then does Elsa notice Ars and politely ask who he is. Ars introduces himself, explaining that he and Yulia met by chance and have been traveling together. "Nice to meet you," he says simply. Elsa quickly catches how casually he calls the first princess by her name, but she keeps that thought to herself. She introduces herself in return. Yulia uses the moment to explain that Ars is the one who saved her life. Karen adds that Elsa used to serve as Yulia's personal attendant. Hearing that, Ars realizes they must have known each other for a long time. Wait, could Elsa be the maid Yulia mentioned before? The one who taught her how to cook and handle chores? Karen proudly says that while she may be the guild master of the Villote Guild, the guild wouldn't run without Elsa. "She's truly amazing," Karen insists. According to her, Elsa manages everything from cooking and cleaning to running both the guild and the tavern smoothly. Instead of looking impressed, Ars gives Karen a long, thoughtful stare. "What's that look for?" she asks nervously. Oz simply tells her to forget it, leaving her confused. In his mind, he can't help but wonder what Karen actually does if Elsa handles almost everything. That's a mystery for another time. Karen then explains that everyone working in the tavern is a Schuler, meaning they are members of the guild. As the guild master, she goes by the title Lehrer. In short, the entire guild runs the tavern together. Elsa then turns to Ars and bows deeply, thanking him for saving Yulia. "It may not be much, but please allow me to prepare a proper meal for you," Elsa says politely. Ars appreciates the gesture and thanks her. She quietly heads to the kitchen, but before she leaves, someone suggests that she also take care of Ars's worn clothes while she's at it. Elsa nods and says she can handle that as well. After collecting his clothes, she excuses herself. Yulia suddenly brightens. Maybe this is her chance to make up for the disaster she cooked before. "Elsa, I'll help you," she says eagerly. Sadly for Yulia, Elsa refuses right away. "There's no need for you to assist in the kitchen, princess," she says gently. "Please focus on entertaining our guest instead." With no other choice, Yulia returns to sit beside Ars. Ars, meanwhile, quietly thinks that Elsa is truly an impressive maid. Changing the subject, Karen asks Ars about his gift. Before he can answer, Yulia proudly speaks up. "It's hearing." Ars quickly adds that it's nothing special, just sharp ears. Even so, Karen says that such a gift might prove useful one day. She doesn't say it aloud, but she had been curious about the power of the man who saved her sister. Hearing sounds simple, yet judging by Yulia's reaction, it must be more than it appears. "Oh, that reminds me," Yulia suddenly says. "Karen, you've been raising your rank, haven't you?" Karen nods and explains that she recently reached Ophanum, the 4th rank. The Magic Association uses a 12-rank system, and those who climb to the very top, the 1st rank, are known as Magic Lords Lucifer. Karen says that if she had reached a higher rank, she might have gained influence even outside the City of Magic. She once believed ranking up quickly was the fastest way to be useful, but with how things have changed recently, she no longer feels the need to rush. Even so, Karen admits she still thinks it would be exciting to challenge a Magic Lord now that she finally has the chance. Ars asks if it's true that the current Demon Lords are said to be the strongest in history. Karen nods without hesitation. "That's right, they're powerful, and that's exactly why I want to face them someday." The thought alone makes her eyes shine with excitement. Just then, Elsa returns with trays of food. She apologizes, saying she could only prepare simple tavern dishes, but she hopes they'll enjoy them. Ars gazes at the meal in front of him. This is the first real, proper meal he has ever had, though he keeps that to himself. He smiles softly and thanks her before taking a careful bite. After chewing, he says it tastes delicious. Elsa bows slightly, grateful for his kind words. Ars then glances at Yulia and notices a bit of food on the corner of her mouth. There's something there, he says. Before she can react, he gently brushes it away and eats the crumb himself. Yulia freezes, her face turning bright red. Karen, who witnessed the whole thing, breaks into a wide grin. "Oh my, you're bold," she teases. "You flirt." Elsa quickly scolds Karen, telling her to behave. Karen only pouts and says her maid is being strict again. Meanwhile, Ars quietly enjoys his meal and their lively company. He never knew that sharing food with others could feel this warm and pleasant. Yulia brings him back into the conversation, asking if he'd like to explore the city tomorrow. Ars hasn't made any plans yet, but her suggestion sounds nice. Then Karen suddenly adds that the guild is heading to the Lost Lands the next day and asks if they want to join. If Karen is going, Yulia says she'd love to see it too. She turns to Ars and asks what he thinks. His answer comes quickly: "I'm in." After all, thanks to his hearing gift, Ars has listened to many stories about the Lost Lands before. Ars has heard many stories about the Lost Lands, so he's eager to see the place with his own eyes. Long ago, the land was ruled by someone known as the Magic Emperor, but after he fought the gods and was defeated, the land fell into ruin. Wars broke out one after another, and in time, the area became too dangerous to live in. Wait, Ars suddenly realizes something. The Lost Lands aren't exactly close to the City of Magic. Are they planning to walk all that way? Karen quickly shakes her head. Of course not. They'll use the transfer gate located inside the Tower of Babel. That makes much more sense. Then Yulia remembers something else. The Lost Lands aren't only explored by guilds, sometimes kingdoms send their armies there too. That means they could run into soldiers from the Earth Empire. A small shadow crosses her face. Seeing her worry, Elsa calmly says she will go with them as well. Hearing that makes Yulia feel much better. With the plan decided, Karen claps her hands and says it's time to rest for the night. She stands first and tells Ars she'll show him to his room. As they walk, she teasingly asks Yulia if she's truly fine with staying in a separate room from Ars. Yulia looks away, her cheeks turning red. "It's not like I dislike it or anything," she mutters shyly. Ars, as always, stays calm and unaffected. Elsa leads Ars to his room and tells him to call her if he needs anything. For someone who once lived locked inside a tower, this comfortable room feels more than enough. Just then, Karen suddenly notices something. Both Yulia and Ars are still covered in dirt from their travels. "Big sis, you smell a little too," she says bluntly. "You should take a bath." Yulia's face turns bright red as she lightly smacks her sister. "You didn't have to say that in front of him." Karen simply tilts her head, surprised to see her usually composed sister acting so flustered. Eris doesn't take offense at all. In fact, he agrees silently. It would be a waste to sleep in such a clean room while still covered in dust and grime. Yulia is still lightly scolding her little sister, so Karen quickly changes the topic and says her big sister should go bathe first. "I'll come get you later," she tells Ars before dragging Yulia along. At last, Ars finds himself alone in a quiet room. So much has happened since he escaped the tower. It has all been overwhelming, yet strangely fulfilling. His next goal is to gather information about Mimir. Still, there's no need to rush. For now, he decides to simply enjoy this new adventure. What he doesn't know is that Karen is outside his door, quietly planning something playful for him. Meanwhile, Karen and Yulia are already relaxing in the bath when Elsa steps in to join them. Yulia looks happy to see her. Elsa calmly explains that Karen invited her and she also wanted to help wash Yulia's hair. Before she begins, Elsa gently points out that Karen's recent, unusual ideas are a bit suspicious. Yulia quickly says there's no need to call them strange. Karen is the first to stand and step out of the bath. Yulia asks if she's leaving already. Karen replies that she needs to prepare a few things for tomorrow. Besides, Elsa is here with you, so take your time, big sis. Make sure you wash properly, she adds with a teasing smile. Yulia nods and promises she will. With that, Karen leaves the bath. Back in his room, Ars sits quietly until he hears a knock. It's Karen, asking if he's still awake. When he answers yes, she opens the door and steps inside. Is something wrong? Ars asks calmly. Did you forget? I told you I'd come get you, didn't I? Karen says. Oh, that's right, the bath. Asu sighs from his seat, now looking forward to it. Karen shakes her head in disbelief. You're acting way too serious about this, she teases. It's not like this is your first bath, right? Karen asks teasingly. Actually, it is, Ars answers honestly. Back when he was locked inside the tower, he could only wipe his body with a damp towel. He never once stepped into a real bath. Hearing that, Karen pauses. I see, she says softly. Then I hope this becomes a nice memory for you. Her face is calm, though her thoughts are hard to read. She leads him down the hallway toward the bath. As they walk, Ars suddenly catches a sweet scent in the air. Without thinking, he gently grabs her shoulder and leans in to sniff her hair. Karen freezes in shock. What was that for, she asks, flustered. Ars, who clearly doesn't understand personal space, answers in a simple tone. You smelled really nice, so I checked. Of course she smells nice. She just came out of the bath. Still, this confirms what Yulia once said. Ars truly has no sense of boundaries. Karen quickly changes the subject and shows him the soap he can use to clean off the dirt. Ars nods obediently. She stops in front of a door at the end of the hall and tells him the bath is inside. When Ars points to another door nearby and asks about it, Karen explains that it's also a bath, but it isn't prepared tonight. That's why she wants him to use the one ahead. Ars doesn't question it and simply thanks her. Then, out of nowhere, he adds that next time he can wash her back in return. Karen blinks in confusion. Ars explains that he once heard it's common for close friends to help wash each other's backs while bathing. We're friends now, right? He says as he gently takes her hands. Let's bathe together next time. Karen's face turns red again. Sure, she replies awkwardly. I'll remember that offer. As Karen walks away, her heart races. Did I just say something strange, she wonders? Before Ars can say anything else awkward, she quickly dashes off down the hallway like the wind. Ars simply calls out a calm goodnight. Once she is gone, he removes his shirt and thinks to himself that he should thank her properly someday for being so kind to a stranger like him. He opens the door to the bath and sees the outline of someone standing inside, their back turned toward him. Oh, is someone already here? He says politely. I'm sorry, I didn't realize it was occupied. The person slowly turns around, and it's Yulia. The princess gasps and quickly covers herself with her arms, asking what he's doing there. Ars, completely unaware of the situation, walks forward without hesitation. When he recognizes her, he explains calmly that Karen told him to use this bath. Maybe she thought I could ask you if I had any questions, he says. I'll thank her later. Yulia doesn't know how to respond. She understands that he means no harm, so she simply looks away, still shielding herself. Just then, another voice speaks up. Is there really nothing you want to say to us? Elsa asks, stepping forward with a towel wrapped around her. So Elsa is here too, Ars realizes, confused. What does she mean by that? Is she asking for his opinion about something? Before Yulia can interrupt, Ars answers honestly after thinking for a moment. Both of you seem very well trained, he says. After another pause, he adds that they both have strong, healthy figures and should feel confident about themselves. Without realizing it, Ars touches on something sensitive. Elsa's eyebrow twitches, and just as she's about to snap at him, Yulia quickly steps in. Maybe you two just aren't understanding each other properly, she says nervously. Ars, still unaware of the tension, decides this is the perfect moment to ask something important. Since we're already here, could you teach me how to use the cleanser Karen gave me earlier? He asks honestly. Elsa, you seem good at this kind of thing, right? Elsa blinks in disbelief. You don't know how to wash yourself with it, she repeats. When he shakes his head, she stares at him even harder. Wait, are you actually asking me to wash you? She demands, clearly shocked. She struggles to keep her composure, almost reminding him that this is not that kind of establishment. Yulia grows even more worried. Just as she feared, they truly are not on the same page. Ars doesn't understand much about the outside world, she explains gently. There are things he simply never learned. Elsa sighs, rubbing her temple. She already suspected that. Then she asks Ars if he had any contact with women during his years in confinement. Ars thinks for a moment before answering honestly that he only ever saw his late mother. Hearing that, Elsa feels a headache coming on, but it also explains why he behaves so naturally around them, even in situations like this. It seems we have many things to teach you, she says firmly, but if we continue now, Yulia will catch a cold. Let's save this lesson for another day. She turns first, signaling that they should leave. Yulia quickly apologizes to Ars and wishes him good night. Yeah, good night, he replies calmly. See you later too, Elsa. Let's go in together next time. Elsa freezes mid-step. What did you just say? She asks, turning sharply, but her sudden stop makes Yulia bump into her from behind. The two stumble and tumble forward, collapsing in an awkward heap on the floor. Are you two all right? Ars quickly kneels beside them, worry clear on his face. Elsa answers that they're fine, then looks at him seriously. Will you take responsibility for this? She asks in a calm but firm voice. Without hesitation, Ars nods and says of course he will. Elsa is left speechless. For a brief moment, she sees him differently. To her, he now looks like a knight who would never break his word. Ars notices her sudden change in expression and asks if something is wrong. No, I have your answer, she replies softly before turning away and telling Yulia that they should leave now. Yulia, however, is in complete panic. Elsa, he saw everything, she whispers in embarrassment. Elsa gently reassures her, saying that at least Aris promised to take responsibility. Watching this, Aris feels surprised. He had always thought Elsa was cold and strict, but now he sees a softer and more caring side to her. It's almost amusing. Before long, morning arrives. Birds sing outside his window as sunlight fills the room. Aris is already dressed and ready for the day. When he walks downstairs, Karen greets him with a cheerful good morning. He replies politely, and she notices how refreshed he looks. With a playful grin, she asks if last night's bath left him with a pleasant memory. Certainly, Ars answers honestly. Next time, let's bathe together. You can invite me anytime, Karen. He says this so innocently that the entire guild hears him. Karen freezes. Her little scheme is clearly backfired. The other guild members begin whispering behind her back. Just then, Yulia steps forward and firmly grabs her sister by the shoulder. Ars smiles innocently, but that only makes Karen shiver. She slowly turns toward Yulia. Dear sister, she says carefully. And she has every reason to be nervous. Yulia suddenly gives off a cold, dangerous aura. I'm so glad you and Ars are getting along, she says sweetly. But I can't say I approve of you tricking him and sending him to the bath like that. Karen quickly hides behind Ars as if using him as a shield. She admits she can tell her big sister is upset, but she already apologized for the prank. Come on, forgive me already, she pleads. Before Yulia can reply, another voice cuts in. What are you three doing standing around? Elsa approaches with her arms crossed and a serious look on her face. The rest of the guild has already left. We're running late, so please hurry. Karen lights up at the perfect timing. Yes, big sis, let's continue this talk later. We need to move. In her heart, she silently thanks Elsa for the rescue. She quickly walks ahead while Elsa follows, still watching her closely. Soon, the four of them stand before the towering Tower of Babel. Ars lifts his head, gazing up at the massive structure that stretches toward the sky. We finally made it, he murmurs. Then Karen suddenly remembers something. Ars, have you heard the latest rumor? She explains that someone recently stole magical knowledge from the magic kings who rule the upper floors of the tower. And it wasn't just them, many nations have suffered similar losses. Things almost became so tense that the Magic Association nearly went to war with the Holy Church. After listening quietly, Ars thinks it through. If someone managed to deceive even the Magic Kings, then that person must be incredibly skilled. Yulia speaks up, asking if Ars is talking about that mysterious mage who stole magical secrets from all over the world. The one people called Mimir. Even when Ars was still trapped in the tower, using his hearing gift to listen to distant voices, that name often came up. Back then, Mimir was already causing problems. Still, Ars didn't think things had grown this serious. It sounds like a real mess now. He asks if Mimir might currently be in the City of Magic. Karen says she has heard rumors, but no one has ever claimed to actually see Mimir in person. That leads her to ask if Ars is searching for him. Ars nods honestly. He's looking for Mimir, though he understands it won't be easy. Right then, Karen announces that they've reached the transfer gate. Ars studies the glowing structure and asks if it works by absorbing the user's mana. Karen confirms it with a smile, adding that the mana taken is basically the travel fee. Before he can react, Karen suddenly pushes Ars forward. Go on ahead, she says playfully. Caught off guard, Ars stumbles straight into the transfer gate. In an instant, his body is swallowed by light. Karen bursts into laughter, amused by the surprised look on his face. She grabs Yulia's arm and jokes that it's good exercise for facial expressions. Yulia scolds her gently, saying she should apologize to Ars later. But before Yulia can prepare herself, Karen pushes her too. With a small yelp, Yulia disappears into the glowing gate as well. Karen dusts off her hands proudly. Now that those two are on their way, she says cheerfully to Elsa, we should follow them. But instead of following her, Elsa suddenly pushes Karen to the ground with a loud thud. Karen stares up in shock as Elsa begins scolding her. Even after all this time, you still haven't learned, she says sternly. And worst of all, you don't look sorry at all. Karen blinks, confused by Elsa's anger. Why are you so upset? She asks. You'll understand soon enough, Elsa replies coldly. Ars walked into the women's bath because of you, didn't he? Or at least, that's what I was told. Oh no. It finally clicks for Karen. She quickly tries to lighten the mood. Elsa, are you feeling embarrassed maybe? She asks carefully. That only makes things worse. Elsa's face turns red with anger. I decided long ago that the only man who would ever see me like that would be the one I marry, she declares firmly. Luckily, Ars said he would take responsibility. Karen has never seen Elsa so emotional before. Wait, what exactly happened in that bath last night? She tries to calm things down, saying that if Ars made that promise, he probably didn't mean it in a romantic way. But Elsa shakes her head. He didn't hesitate. He looked me straight in the eyes and answered seriously. Once a man gives his word, he cannot pretend it never happened. Elsa's resolve is so strong that she even says if she ever exposed herself like that to another man again, she would take extreme measures to atone. Karen's eyes widen. That's way too extreme. Please, let's calm down. Then Karen makes a mistake. Was it really that serious, though? He only caught a glimpse of you in the bath, right? The moment those words leave her mouth, Elsa's anger flares up all over again. What are you talking about? He saw everything, Elsa shouts at Karen. Karen's face turns pale as the weight of her actions finally sinks in. She didn't expect things to go this far.